YouTube app, they must have fixed that problem about the vertical button. So that is really good for us, my friends, because I like the landscape mode a lot better. So I can talk with my hands and describe stuff to you guys in that way. I'm a very hands talker, you know? So can everybody hear me? Let me know where you are at, where you're viewing it from, and what the weather's like where you're at, what you got planted. Let me know all these things, guys. So welcome to the Saturday morning live stream here at the Garden Like a Viking headquarters in northern Indiana, zone 5B, 6A. But that is kind of shifting all the time now. Like, it hasn't been very cold these past handful of years. So, and I hear that the zones are kind of shifting a little bit. So who knows really? But what's more important than the zone is the frost-free days, because the zone actually really only is talking about perennials if you get down to it. Even though there's the zone just indicates the maximum cold or the minimum temperature that your area receives. So that really only has to do with perennials, things that need to overwinter. But there is a lot that you can infer by the zones as well. You can tell if someone's in zone 2, you can tell they've got a short growing season and they're up north, you know, typically. You can tell if someone's in zone 9 that that they can just grow so many things all the time. So, let me see who's here. Okay, PA, hello my friend, my loyal friend. He is always here with the live streams, with that good commentary and contributions. I appreciate you, my friend. And let's see here. He says, hey everyone, apparently in Israel, they make small communities to grow food together out of necessity. We should learn from that and to share the workload. Take it from a solo homesteader. Yes. Yes, solo homesteading is the difficult thing because we are social beings. Social beings in the sense that we require other people to live. So can't really survive on our own. So even if you're solo homesteader, there's still other people involved along the way somewhere. So yes. Let us see here. Man, just made this tea from wild mint. Well, not wild, it's cultivated mint that is outside. 3 different kinds. Apple mint, and then some type of spearmint, and then one that I got from Jenny. We just call it Jenny mint because it just never goes away and it's around all the time. You know, it's very good. So, and then some ginger and some lemon balm. That's what this tea is. Super good. And some honey. Oh, I wanted to show you guys. The honey is now in from the Amish place where I get the raw milk, the Amish friends of mine. And it is super good. It's from a clover field and very, very dark and rich in flavor. So delicious. So let us see what kind of questions on you guys' mind. Taylor says, hi from Colorado. You are as deep as roots with this gardening stuff. I dig it. Thank you for the knowledge. You're very welcome, my friend. Full of those garden puns, huh? And let me see here. Let's see. Guys, remember to hit the thumbs up button so we can grow the community here. That's what it's all about. Express Mobile Service says Landon from North Florida. All right, Val. Hey all. Having a beautiful day here on the other mile-high city of Arizona. Definitely P. Hello, my friend. Randy Peters. Good morning from Eastern Montana. Scott Stewart. Magnificent day here in Southwest Indiana. All right, Southwest Indiana. Okay, nice. I am in Northeast Indiana. Darren Redding, pleasant beginning to summer here in San Diego. Good morning, fellow Vikings. Yes, my friend, hello. Here we are to share the knowledge and the energy. Val, good morning all. Delighted to be here with you. Becky Knight, hello, says good morning from South Florida. South Florida, man, in my mind, that just feels really hot and humid. Yeah, is it pleasant still? Ken Harrison, good morning to you as well. Ben Hudson, good morning, my cousins. 2 a.m. Australia. All right. Cat Lady Nelly says good afternoon. Iowa Viking, good to see you here, my friend. Definitely P, it's cooler than usual. Zone 8. Yes, zone 8. Okay, that's a nice zone. Sherry Easties, good morning, everyone from southern Indiana. Hello, Jay. Kim Williams. All right. Mark Smith, good morning from Louisiana, 9B. Finished digging my potatoes this morning. Have my best harvest ever. All right. What variety did you grow, Mark? What type of potato did you grow? Because that is so important. And so I typically like to grow Yukon Golds because Yukon Golds are a shorter one. They grow relatively fast and they store really well. And I love the yellow flesh is so delicious that I want to use it in all kinds of stuff. And so I like the yellow potato. So I do the Yukon Gold, but then also, guys, the German Butterball, classic, delicious, very dense potato. And it is one of the technically true indeterminate type of potatoes. And so I'm doing a whole season long video where I can show you guys what the whole deal is. So I'm going to make a real good video about putting to rest, finally, hilling potatoes and indeterminate versus determinate potatoes and all of that. So I'm got that going on. And for the indeterminate one, I'm using the German Butterball. Okay. Definitely P says, I have Yukon Gold and Norland Reds. Yes, Norland Reds are very good. Very productive as well. Yes. Let's see here. Someone just gave a tip. Jeep Man, $10. Thank you very much, my friend. First tip of the day. Appreciate the support. Let's see here. Charles Coker says, how often to fertilize with the weed compost tea? Well, I encourage you to watch the video I made about the liquid fertilizer, or about the fertilizer regimen for this year. And if you made a good, strong weed tea from the weeds in the area, then yeah, about every 2 weeks you don't need to do it any more often than that. Now, if it's your first year and you don't have the life in the soil bursting yet, or you're just starting to implement all of these practices, or definitely if you're switching over from conventional chemical, big ag type of fertilization and soil management, which is really soil destroying, I mean, big time. So if you're switching over from that, or if the soil is kind of lacking in life, or like I said, if it's your first time transitioning into this type of gardening, then you're going to want to you can do every week, not a problem, but no more than every week. So you shouldn't need that. But once the soil's nice and thriving, after just a few years of that, if you've watched any of my recent shorts that I've made, I've showed you guys some of the soil in the different garden projects that I'm a part of. And even though it's only been a few years in these areas, that the soil is really nice already. And so once it's like to that level and bursting with life, then you really don't need to fertilize except as like an additional, as like a top off. So once a month or once every other week is a good program to stick to. So Tammy Harder says, good morning from Minnesota, home of the Minnesota Vikings. You betcha. Yeah. Do they really say it that much around there? You betcha. Yeah, okay. So Shiva Shankar says, good morning from Bangalore, India. Bangalore. Yes, one place in India I never made it to, Shiva Shankar. I rode my Royal Enfield around India on 2 separate expeditions. It was amazing, mostly through Rajasthan and then up through the north and Manali. Oh man, everywhere. It was so wonderful. Although I did another trip through India where I hopped over from Sri Lanka, went to the southern tip of India in Trivandrum in Kerala, and then walked all the way up the coast through Goa into Mumbai. Oh man, beautiful. I love India. Learned so much. 4 Points Homestead, howdy from Texas Viking. That's what I like to hear. We got Vikings all over the place now, because that's what the Vikings do. So let's see here. Tree Rogi says, Makachi, sunscreen and lotion. The Fourth Wiseman, weed teas do work. Read the weeds, they show up to put in what ground needs. Yes, definitely. The ground, that is the purpose of the weeds. Remember that, guys, that the weeds are like nature's Band-Aid. When there is an area that receives disturbance, let's say, I've used this example before, but it doesn't hurt to do it again. So if we had a thriving forest and we just bulldozed one side of it, and so that this side was just scraped bare earth, no trees, no nothing, just bare earth. Nature never wants to have bare earth because that's not how it's designed. It wants to have something living into the soil. It wants to have the plant in there that is capturing the carbon from the atmosphere and pumping it into the soil to feed the life in the soil. This is called soil building. And soil building is a plant-driven process whereby the carbon is captured from the atmosphere and pumped into the soil in the form of exudates and different kinds of sugars and other things. And the weeds. So in this example, if we bulldoze this one side and this is wiped out clean, then nature never wants bare soil. And so what it would do is first, all of the dormant weed seeds that are in the soil would sprout. And this is why weed seeds can last for years in the soil, because they're meant to. They're sleepers, you know, they're meant to, okay, when the time is right, if the need is there, boom, then they can sprout. And those weeds will immediately begin doing what plants do. They will capture the sunlight and pump the carbon into the soil, but also the roots of the plants will go deep into the earth and mine the minerals that the plant requires and hold it into the plant tissue. And then after the life cycle of the plant is over, it falls to the ground where it decomposes. And like that, over and over, it makes the soil more and more rich and bursting with life. So that after a few seasons of that, the soil would then be prepared for the perennials to move in, you know, because this is still the example of having the wiped clean earth and the thriving forest. Well, after just a few seasons of the weeds doing their thing, then the perennials would move in, and then the trees would move in after some years of that. And then before long, it would be a forest again. And it all starts with the weeds because they are the infantry. And that's why they're so difficult to get rid of, because nature's designed them in this way. Which leads me to a question that I've gotten from you guys. Can I use weeds as a cover crop? See, so a lot of people, they hear the talk of cover crop and stuff, and so they think, well, yeah, I'm cover cropping right now because I've let the whole entire thing go to weeds. It's not really the same, though. It's really not. Even though having weeds in the ground is better than bare soil. Anything is better than bare soil. Which, funny enough, that's the way that the industrial ag complex does it. Just tills it all, leaves it bare all winter long. 8 months out of the year, really, it's bare. But the weeds as the cover crop, it doesn't really work that way, guys, because the plants that we choose for cover crops have very specific relationships with the soil, and they do very specific things. So if you watch any of my videos or the shorts I just made recently about the winter rye cover crop, you can see visually how the roots of the winter rye go deep into the earth and they're super fibrous. And so it's like tilling. I mean, it's better than tilling. It's way better than tilling because all those fibrous roots go several feet into the earth. And it's very, very vigorous, this root system. And so once the plant is terminated, that root system then decomposes and it leaves little air pockets into the soil because you want the soil to breathe like this. And so it leaves little air pockets into the soil and it decomposes and nourishes the life in the soil. And so weeds don't have this same kind of thing. Like dandelions, I mean, yes, they are still good for the soil, but they are not a cover crop. They're not going to do the same things that like crimson clover would or winter rye. Crimson clover or any of the clovers are going to capture not only the sunlight and pump the carbon into the air, but they are going to capture the nitrogen out of the air. Remember, air is 79% nitrogen, and it is like 20 point something oxygen. And it's like 0.3 of a percentage, all the other gases combined. Carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is only like a 0.003% of the composition of the atmosphere. 79% of the air that we are breathing is nitrogen. Think of that. And so the plants, some of the plants, legumes and other things have developed a relationship with that, have the ability to utilize microorganisms that exist in its roots in order to capture this nitrogen out of the air. It's magnificent. It's incredible. The plant, but here's the thing, the plant itself doesn't actually do this. It is the plant invites the microorganisms that do this, it invites it to its root system by manufacturing these specific type of sugars that it knows that those bacteria like. Isn't that, I mean, that's a type of intelligence that is mind-blowing, okay? So let me get on to some of these here questions. Let's see here. Metamorphos says, Hiya from Scotland Highlands. Love your methods of natural gardening and just started watching. Do you use no dig good watch? Can you say is leaving roots in once harvesting plants behind, or is better in a little bit of, maybe it's lost in translation here, the question a little bit. I'm not sure what you're asking, but yes, Metamorphos, I use the no dig approach. Sometimes it's, you know, there's a lot of different techniques that you can utilize. Lots of different techniques. I've utilized so many of them. And in certain situations, at certain times, there are different methods that are best for that situation. So sometimes it's really good to grow a crop of green manure, like a crimson clover, and to till it in nice and good, depending on several factors. And to utilize it that way. Sometimes that is good. But the most of the time, the vast majority of the time, if just keeping the soil covered is absolutely plenty. And using cover crops, keeping it covered with leaves or grass clippings and cover crops is absolutely enough. Because the life in the soil does a better job tilling than the tiller could ever hope to do. So that's why. Not just because it's like, oh, we don't want to disturb the life in the soil and stuff, or, oh, no, it's because it's actually does a better job of tilling and aerating the land, and the nutrient and the water exchange, the gas exchange. All of that is actually better from the no-till method. So it's not just that we don't like tilling for some reason, for some insignificant reason. No, it's because it's really much better not to in the long run. Whoa, that's hot still, yeah. Let's see here. Okay, guys. The fourth, yes, you can weed cover crop. Use weeds that show up naturally. The weeds only grow in conditions that they're meant to grow in. Chop and drop after cover crop. Don't poison. That's absolutely true, my friends. Do not poison the weeds. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you know, to finish that thought, you can let the weeds grow if you like, but it's not going to be the same as using the plants that we are intentionally using, the clovers and the rye and the winter wheat and stuff. However, that is it is sort of a, you know, it's commonly said that like the dandelion is a sign of having lack of calcium in the soil, and that they're only there in order to correct that. But it's been my experience in life and with all of this that that's not necessarily true, because that goes contrary to all the way that plants act. Because the plants want to each year create the condition that is more and more ideal for their exact type of needs. And so they're not going to just keep creating this soil that is so good and exactly what that plant needs, so that it can then just magically disappear because, oh, okay, our job is done. Yeah, I don't necessarily feel that that the dandelion is a sign of calcium deficiency, because that's not really been my experience. I mean, maybe, but at the same time, it's not going to mine itself out of existence. No plant does that. It is, each plant wants to create a soil that is more fertile for its needs. So let us see this. Help baby cabbage worms. What should we do, Nate? Lisa of Light. Okay, so baby cabbage worms, you got to get them while they're young and they're very hungry. So I was going to make a short about it, but yes, I have some of the baby cabbage worms, and they were devouring the kale. And so what I did was I made the solution of the slug control solution that I just made a video about. And I sprayed that on there, and bam, within 20 minutes, they are all deceased. And then you leave it on there the next day, and they're all just dried up like little tiny, it just immediately dries them out. So if you hit them with that thing, especially when they're baby, if you hit them with that solution, they're done. So spray them above and below the leaf surface, and there you go. Let's see here. Hi Nate, question. How about crop rotation, specifically in raised beds on bad soil? Well, what about the crop rotation do you have in mind? Are you questioning? Because on the home gardening scale, crop rotation is not necessary. Crop rotation is not necessary, especially if we are utilizing the natural farming techniques of utilizing crop residue and all of this. So a lot of people will say that it's necessary to rotate crops because of diseases and pests. But the thing is that for diseases like powdery mildew or blight or so many things are already present in the soil. They are always present in the soil. Corn smut, all of that is present in the soil already. It's just kept in check by a balance of microorganisms. Everything has to do with the life in the soil. And so it's only when that checks and balance become out of balance that the disease is allowed to proliferate. And so for that reason, if we have thriving soil life and healthy plants, they can defend themselves against all of that stuff. There is no need to rotate because, especially in the home garden setup, just because you move the plants 10 feet or 50 feet does not mean that the whatever pest or disease it is can't just jump that. So the thing is to create the healthiest plants possible, because nature never crop rotates. It produces the same thing year after year, and it definitely spreads, yes. But when we look to nature, we see, okay, the tree and the grasses and what we call the weeds and just so many plants, they grow and then they die. They grow and they die. They grow and they die. And so they are custom tailoring the soil to exactly the needs that plant wants. And so like that is how nature self-fertilizes, self-regenerates. So there is not really a need to, especially if you're amending the soil with plenty of things, if you're using cover crops, if you are using manures and all of that kind of stuff, no need to crop rotate. Let's see here. Lisa of Light says, thank you, Nate. Yes, you're welcome, my friend. Kim says, does anyone have experience of growing ginger? Any tips? Yes, my friend, I made a whole video on growing ginger, and it's right now outside growing wonderful, except for the fact that I didn't harden it off correctly and put it outside and forgot about it one day, and the sun just cooked the leaves. I accidentally left it in the full sun and it just baked the leaves, even though the ginger was, 3 feet tall by the time I put it outside. Watch some of the older live streams of just like a couple weeks ago, and I'm showing you guys the ginger and stuff. So yeah, the ginger is growing nice and thick. It's already producing more rhizomes. So it's been about 4 months, and you can see the rhizome production already. So it's wonderful. Ginger, though, likes very rich soil. So you want the soil to be rich, and you want it to be well draining and soft and fluffy, because the ginger will not power through heavy clay soil when it's trying to make its rhizomes. All right, so it's native to the tropics. So it wants a sort of a sandy, loamy, maybe high in organic matters and things like this, and it wants the temperatures to be high. Not super high, but like tropical, where it's in the 80s pretty much and super humid all the time. That when I was living in Thailand, that's pretty much how it is all the time. And that's what it really likes. So it also can be an understory plant in the sense that you do not need a lot of sun for the ginger. The ginger actually prefers some shade. So if you're going to be if you have an area of the garden that is going to be that is shaded, then you can put ginger there. If the shadiest spot in the garden, if you're going to plant in it, I would plant either ginger or something like a Swiss chard. Yeah, those would be the two things that work really good in the shade like that. And let's see here. I thought you were burning incense. Yes, that is a hot cup of joe. Yes, this is the 3 different kinds of mint and the lemon balms. Lady Hammer, hello. Can you plant Jerusalem artichoke rhizome if they don't have chips yet? Yes, you can plant them at any time. The Jerusalem artichoke is actually very robust and hardy. So you pretty much, yeah, you can just plant it at any time. So long as you know that it's viable still, that it's not, I mean, if you ordered them in the mail or something, or you know that they're organic, then yes. If they haven't been sprayed with any kind of sprout inhibitor or something, then yes, you definitely can. Let's see here. Tree Rogie, ever thought of a glass walls in growing box to show how plants work below ground in your videos? That would be very cool, yes. I don't at the moment have all the setup for all of that. That's really extensive. Yes, that is a lot of setup. Let's see here. Tuloco says, Nate, have you looked into the benefits of burning plant material where you are planting? We always do it in Puerto Rico and works good, but never seen formal research done on it. Yes, actually I made a video last fall about a really good way to create a garden bed. And that is to take dry deciduous leaves or really any kind of dry plant matter and put it into the shape of the bed that you want, and then light it on fire. Let it all burn, and the ashes will kill the grasses off and also will fertilize the soil. And this is like a modified kind of slash and burn technique, which the name sounds really terrible, slash and burn, but it's actually the original sustainable agriculture that native and indigenous people practiced for thousands of years, was the slash and burn type techniques, where you take a place, you cut down the vegetation, the trees, all of that, and you let it dry and you burn it all. And then it becomes very, very fertile. All the stuff becomes like biochar, and all the ashes, all the potash and everything that goes into the soil, the calcium, all of that stuff. And then you're clear of weeds as well. And so you will plant into that area. And they would usually, but here's the thing, is that the elders of the community in these indigenous type societies, they would be the ones that would say, okay, we can farm on this for like a couple of years, but then they would be the ones to tell, okay, the land is losing its vigor, so we are going to let this area that we did the slash and burn and we've been growing on for a few years, we're going to let that heal itself. And we're going to go over here, some other place, and do it over there. And we're going to leave this alone for like 10 years. And yeah, that's really the wisdom of the land right there. And yeah, that's a really great way, burning the plant material. So long as it's done responsibly. But when you talk about slash and burn agriculture, most people in their mind, they just have pictures of the rainforest burning and monkeys running, you know what I mean? Because we have that like image in our mind in the West of the rainforest burning. But if it's done in a responsible way, it's a very good way to do things. Let's see. Maikachi says, Nate, how are your electro experiments going? Electroculture experiments going? Haven't noticed anything yet, but it's been just a couple of days, really. I finally got the wire and stuff. I'm going to be making a shorts on it. So we have a number of different experimentations happening. So yes, I'm going to, the video will be coming out soon on that, and so you guys will be able to see. I'll do a couple of update videos along the way, but it's just totally, because I am of the mind that I really do not, I don't hold on so tightly to my opinion or to knowledge that if something is proven to be inaccurate or true, then I have no problem adapting that. You know what I'm saying? So I will objectively look at these things, and if it works, that's going to really, truly blow my mind. But still, I hold the opinion that the plant is already the most perfect antenna that could possibly be. And so sticking a copper wire in the ground doesn't seem like it could possibly do anything. But we will see. Mike Seitz, my cucumbers grew about a foot. Put out 1 fruit each and stopped. No flowers right now. Zone 8A. Okay, they grew about a foot, put out a fruit each, and then stopped. No flowers right now. Mike, okay, did you transplant the cucumbers? Because that sounds like transplant transplanted cucumbers to me. How is the pollinators in the area? Do you have pollinator attracting flowers and stuff like that? Yes, you transplanted them. Okay, so that is why cucumbers do not like to be transplanted. So the number one thing, that's why there's crops that we don't transplant. We don't transplant cucumbers, squash, melons, watermelons, cantaloupe, all that kind of stuff. Beans, peas, we don't transplant those because they will do things like that. They don't like to have their roots disturbed, and they like to put down. So like the cucumber, here is how it does it. The cucumber will put up those when it sprouts, it will put up those two big leaves, all right? And it will use those like the solar panels, and it will capture the energy of the sun, and it will use that to put down a huge, extensive root system. That's the very first thing, plant like cucumber and squash and melons, that's the very first thing that they do with those two big leaves, is they put down a huge root system. And that's why it seems like they're not doing anything for a long time after they sprout. But what they're doing is they are what is called setting the roots. And so they're putting their roots out to feel and say, okay, how big of an environment are we in, and how nutritious is this environment? And that signals the intelligence of the plant. It signals to the plant how big it can get. So if it lives its life, if it during that root set, it goes boom and it hits a bunch of plastic and it just wraps around and stuff, and then that signals to the plant, okay, we are in an environment that is poor of nutrients and very tiny. So we are just going to not have that big and great of a life. But the only purpose of the plant is to produce another seed. So it's going to go, okay, let's produce another seed and just call it good because this life sucks. That's what they're saying. The intelligence of the plant. And so that's what it does. So it will put out a few and then boom, that's done. So my suggestion is to pull those up and to put in seeds, because direct sowed is going to, once it has that root set, then it's going to say, okay, now we're in a real good environment, and it will get nice and thick. Let's see here. Jesse K, $5. Thank you very much for the tip, my friend. I appreciate the contribution. Let's see here. Fertile Pharmacy says, I tried diatomaceous earth and boric acid to kill ants, but no luck. They just move on to the next tree. Okay, why are you trying to kill the ants? Are they really demolishing things, or do they just seem like they are a nuisance? Let's see here. Because a lot of people think that the ants are really harmful, but the ants aren't really doing much harm. So let us first discern if the ants are actually doing harm and how much harm. And then we can use the borax and the sugar, right? Isn't that what everyone's been saying? Borax and the sugar. And let's see, Clem Fandango, what's up, my friend? He says, Nate, my friend, I hope you are doing well. Yes, I am. Saw your short on those purchase slips. I got some from the same place, I think, and they were bad. I also bought some from Baker Creek, though, and they were great. Yeah, Baker Creek's got awesome everything. I mean, they really do, and they are just on their game. They do slips in a different way. I'm not sure how, but they're more than just slips. So yeah, but still nothing compares to the ones that we're growing ourselves. I need to get these things in the ground, but I just planted a bunch of other ones. Cause guys, when I was doing that soil method, if you watch the short that I had done, I mean, there was so many roots on those things. It's just a huge massive roots. And from each potato, I got like 10 slips. It was just crazy, so they're all planted out right now. And Paul Little, $20. Thank you very much, my friend. Says, I'm enjoying my studies at Garden Like a Viking University. My garden says I'm getting all A's. That's a lovely little metaphor, my friend. Thank you. And thank you for the support as well. So yes, I'm very glad that you are benefiting from all this stuff. Fertile Pharmacy says, the ants steal the nutrients and water. Leaves turn dry and crumbly. Steal the nutrients and water. From what? Oh, from the tree, you mean? Like the sap? They suck the sap out of the tree? Okay, I could see that. So guys, tell them about the ant thing is the borax and the sugar, right? That's what we've landed on. That's what everybody is saying. Dozens and dozens of you have said that. Let's see here. RK says, our lawn is full of white clover, dandelion, self-heal, and plantain, and we have the most lush lawn on the street. It even looks lush during dry times. Many neighbors pay for treatment. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, my friend. The people around here are becoming increasingly the kind that just want the lawn to just look like carpet. Just not one weed, not one speck of color, not nothing. Just they edge the whole thing so that it's just perfectly edged and it just looks like carpet. And they dump chemicals. They're constantly dumping chemicals on it. These guys over here mows the grass like 2 or 3 times a week because there's so much nitrogen fertilizer on it. It just, yeah. Whereas mine is just bursting with life. I mean, there is plants in every available. I mean, flowers everywhere. So yeah. Let's see. Fertile Pharmacy says the ants are at the roots of the trees, so diatomaceous earth doesn't reach them. Yeah, that would make sense. Let's see. Val says, will hydrogen peroxide and water take care of rust spots on my bean seedlings? Let's see. Are the bean seedlings in the ground? What are the rust spots there for? Are you sure that they're not some kind of insect damage? You are sure that they are some kind of disease, rust? Because I don't have a lot of experience with the hydrogen peroxide for that purpose. I used to use hydrogen peroxide to take powdery mildew off of the flowers that we were growing in Northern California. But that was about, it's powerful stuff. So let's see here. Lady Hammer says, I can't find anything to kill the horrible fire ants. Oh man, somebody help Lady Hammer out. What are the things to kill the horrible fire ants? I'm pretty sure that it's I'll have to look it back up because I get this question every week about ants. And during the wintertime, some people had a great solution. I mean, that's what we all agreed on was the borax and the water. Everyone kept saying, yes, that is the best. That's the thing. You just pour it around, they eat it, and they die. So BWSR Bushcraft, what's up, my friend? He says, my Space Masters have huge leaves and little tiny yellow flowers after just 3 weeks of transplant into grow bags. Tip, use grow bags in a self-watering container. All right, you heard it. Store brand artificial sugar works without anything else. What? Well, I mean, why does that sound surprising, actually? I mean, it is a white crystalline powder that is highly processed and toxic. So let us see here. South Louisiana, I was thinking gasoline might work. Oh, yeah. Hot soapy water will. Shooting the soil, what's up, my friend? Says, everything doing good in the garden except the Chinese cabbage. None have sprouted yet. Zone 6A, okay. You want to make sure you get good seeds. The Chinese cabbage seeds go bad after just like 2 years, I have found. But the Chinese cabbage, they get hammered by the slugs. For some reason, because they are a brassica, but they're a real weak, or they're a real soft brassica. They're not like kale or collard greens that are like real hard to eat. They're super soft and buttery. So yeah, they probably did come up because they sprout real fast and they grow pretty fast, but they probably got mowed down by slugs, I'm sure. That's why I always, cabbages, collard greens, kale, I always transplant those because of that exact reason. They just are too tender. When they pop their head above the surface with them 2 leaves, they just sit there for so long putting their roots down, and they're just so vulnerable at that stage. So it's hard to direct sow anything like that around here. Let's see. Ken Harrison says, I dump boiling water on mine. Looks like it works, but they're everywhere on my property. Sounds like he's talking about ants. So, let's see here. Big West's Lawn Care says, dude, from a lawn care man, spray milk on powdery mildew. Gone instantly. Yes, that can work, definitely. If you're commenting on my comment about the powdery mildew in Northern California, this was different, and we couldn't be spraying milk on this. But that is where the labs really comes into effect. The milk is because of the labs, and if you just make the labs itself, then it is even more effective, and will also act as a fertilizer to the soil. And you can also mix it with other things. Let's see, Shooting the Soil says, I'll pop some inside. Thanks, Nate. Yes, definitely do that because they're just too tender. They'll get wiped out. The Fourth Wiseman, diatomaceous earth will also deter slugs. Yeah, yes, that is true. I have used it there, but after it rains, it seems to be much less effective. Okay, Lisa of Light says, regarding ants, the thought is if you mix the boric acid with sugar, they carry it back to the colony for you. Yes, that is right. So you mix the borax, which is just borax, you know, the 20 mule team stuff. So you take the borax and mix it with the sugar, and you put it around the place, and they eat it, take it back, and they perish. So that has to work because so many people have been saying that. I don't personally have firsthand experience using that, but it has to work because so many people have been saying that. So let's see here. Hydroponics, while good, needs constant attention and can fail quickly. Natural, organic, stable for me. Absolutely, Ben Hudson. Hydroponics is good only in the sense that you can do a lot indoors and in a small space. You don't have to deal with the weight and the handling of the soil. And it's faster than soil. So those are the main benefits of hydroponics. But other than that, they fail in every other category. They fail in quality of produce. They fail in nutrient density of produce. They fail dramatically in the flavor of produce. They fail in every other way. The only way that the hydroponics wins is in the speed of production. It's about 30% faster, give or take, than soil, and it's so much easier. Like if you're trying to do it in a basement or something, you know, then hydroponics is so much easier to deal with than lugging soil around all over the place. But that's about it. Other than that, it fails in all the other categories. So because plants are designed to have the soil food web. Some plants can grow hydroponically, but that's not how they're designed. So they need the relationships with the soil, the life in the soil. Everything has to do with the life in the soil. So yeah, RK says quality is number one. Yes. And for quality, there's nothing finer than soil. There really is. Garth, what's up, my friend? Says, hi, tribe. Checking in late from Northern Ontario. You guys still got snow on the ground there? Or what? You got stuff planted in the garden? I hope you don't got snow on the ground still. So, yes. And Garth, I read your email this morning about the pH of your soil, but you already know what I'm going to say, don't you? I am of the experience and the opinion that the pH of the soil does not need to be manipulated by man. That the life in the soil does it. And so if the life in the soil is bursting and thriving, if there's plenty of nutrients for it and housing for it, meaning organic matter and all of this, then the plant will establish all of the relationships that it needs. And I learned this over many years of being the type of farmer in Northern California on the high dollar crops that the type of farmer that was manipulating. I spent countless hours manipulating the pH and pHing everything. I had this whole Pelican case full of different pH meters for the soil, pH meters for the all this, and Brix meters and all this kind of stuff. And I was using all these things. And it took so many chemicals and so much time and all this adjusting pHs and everything until I really, after so many years, understood to take a step back. And you can't dissect the individual aspects of the natural system and think that we can manipulate them. That you step back and you say, okay, it's functioning as a whole and it's self-sustaining as a whole in some way. And so the soil life is so far beyond the comprehension of the human, has been my experience. So I could go on and on about that, but that's a long way to say that, of course, I think that maybe you don't need to adjust the pH. You just need to get something happening with the relationships in the soil, which you know all about. So, okay, it says leeks are in the ground. Okay, good. Do you grow onions that north? Are you growing onions as well, or just leeks? Let's see. Sarah Richardson says, also, Nate, have you grown watercress? And if so, a tutorial would be great. I have not grown watercress, no. Nope, I have no experience at all with it. So, Short Bus Mooner says, I did. I used it. Borax and sugar with water, enough to make a thick syrup, in a small jar under the kitchen counter. No more sugar ants. No more sugar ants, and haven't came back. Okay, so they haven't came back after that. Let's see here. Hello from Horsetail Gardens. Hello, Reed. Good to see you here, my friend. Horsetail Gardens. That's Chad says, I remember last year I pulled my compost back and had the most unbelievable white mold covering the whole bottom, very thick. I was busy at the time, really good to make stuff with. Yes, that is very good stuff at the bottom there. Let's see, hydroponics. Austin says, hydroponics, lower water use, no pesticides typically needed, faster growth. Great for leafy greens, not as great for other types. Okay, lower water use. Yes, if you're growing someplace in the desert, then perhaps this would be really good. Here we have plenty of water, and so that's not really an advantage, because when you do the heavy mulching like this here, is you hardly have to water at all. I mean, we are already in another drought, guys. Let me know where you're at. How is the rain outlook? How has it been and how is it now? But we are totally already in another drought. I mean, it's been a couple of weeks since the last rain, and we have no rain on the forecast. You see here, we just have 80s, and it's going to be sunny. No rain on the forecast. Same as it was last year, just bone dry and hot for weeks on end. And with the heavy mulch that I do, you know, that no matter what time, no matter even after 7-8 weeks with no rain, it is still moist underneath that mulch. You don't have to water. And I wanted to say to you guys that, in fact, you shouldn't be watering that much. So here is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people making. And it is that they water too often and they don't water deep enough. And here's why that's a problem. Because when the plant receives water at a high frequency, meaning you water every day, okay, then the plant is not going to put roots deep into the earth to seek out the water that it needs, because the water is all at the surface. Because you water and it goes down a few inches, yes, and so the roots are saying, hey, that's everything that we need. So then when you don't water for just a couple of days, the plant starts to wilt and everything looks like, oh, I got to water it again, because it has not developed, it was not allowed to formulate those deep roots penetrating, seeking out the moisture. So once you plant something, this is a golden tip, guys, that this will change your experience of gardening. If you're growing like in the ground, okay, it's different for containers. But if you're growing in the ground or in raised beds that are open to the ground, then after you plant something and you water it for just a couple of days until it's established, you pretty much don't water again. If you've got a nice heavy layer of mulch, which you should, of course. And so you want to let the plant seek out the moisture that is in the soil, especially if you live anywhere like in Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and these kind of places, Michigan. We have a very high water table here, meaning that there is water in the ground like everywhere, you know. And so they can seek out the moisture through capillary action of the soil. If the soil's covered, it won't evaporate, and the plant will be able to access that. So that is a golden tip, guys. You have to, I know it seems counterintuitive, but if you're growing in the ground, let the plant seek out the water, and it will develop such a more robust root system, and therefore more resilience and strength than if you're watering every day. I know some people watering twice a day, and their plants are still like wilty in the afternoon because they've just got them tiny little shallow root surface, and that's why. So Moondust says, straw or wood chips for mulching? Well, if you have, it depends how much access you have to both. because both are almost a pure carbon source. Straw will be a lot easier to deal with. Straw will decompose faster, and straw will be easier to plant in. But wood chips, especially if they're arborist wood chips, meaning the ones with the whole branches and everything like that, you don't want like mulch that is just wood. You want arborist wood chips, you know, that are the whole plant. Like with the leaves and everything like that, that's going to break down a lot faster than the other kind of like hardwood mulch. So, yeah, I would use the straw if you had the options. But wood chips is also really good. It just takes a lot. That's more of a longer term, you know. And yeah, there's pros and cons to both. But if you have the option, straw definitely. But the greatest of all is deciduous leaves. That's the best, and also grass clippings. That works really well as also. Ms. T, good to see you here, my friend. Says greetings, sending high vibration and positive, strong energy from the Universal City, Texas. Where did you get your sodium hydroxide from? I got it from the internet. So I redid the links on the wetting agent or the sulfur video and the slug video, I think. So I redid the links to those because they were out of it. With the link that I put there. So you can go to the description of that video, and you can see there a direct link to the exact stuff that I was using. Yeah. Let's see here. And Paul Little, not much rain here either in North Georgia, zone 7B, but tons of leaves to mulch with. All right. I also have a small pond I use for watering. Good. Sounds very good. So yeah, if they're in the ground, then you put the leaves on top, and that's going to be really good. Watch the short that I just made about the soil and what it's just so nice with that mulch. We always want the soil to be covered, guys. Remember that, because of the evaporative effects of exposed soil. So soil has a capillary action to it, meaning that it can transfer water from one sort of molecule to the next, you know, and in good healthy soil. And so it can draw water up from the water table below it. So when it does this though, and the soil surface is wide open, then that gives it the opportunity to get roasted by the sun and evaporate, or to blow away by the wind, and that sort of pulls the moisture out of the soil. Think of like a wick. You know, how a wick, if it's real windy, then it consumes it so much faster. And because it's pulling it out, it wicks. That's what capillary action is basically. So think of the soil as a wick. And so there's a lot of water in the ground. But when we have the land exposed to the wind and to the sun, then it wicks and it dries the moisture out of the land. So what we want to do is we're going to put a nice thick layer of mulch, or even plastic can also work for this. Plastic works really good as far as keeping the soil from evaporating. And contrary to popular understanding, it also still, even with plastic, the soil can still breathe enough to thrive. And so, but the main thing is that we want to limit that evaporation, because that is what does it, and that's what dries out them roots. And so put that thick layer of mulch, and that is going to stop that. Let's see here. Fourth Wiseman says, fast way to check hay or straw for aminopyralids, meaning grazon or roundups. Put it, the hay or straw on peas are best. Beans work too, but peas are more fragile. If they grow, okay. Yes. Okay. Straw is good. Yes, that is absolutely true. I always said beans because beans grow so much faster. Peas, are so slow and everything. But yeah, if someone is concerned about having the round or the grazon in there, the residual broadleaf herbicide in the hay or straw or manure as well, then you can plant some beans, some fast, because they sprout in like 5 days, some pole beans, and they'll grow real fast, and they're really sensitive to that stuff. So you'll know quickly if they didn't work out, then you'll know that, okay, it's been compromised. Express Mobile says, always raining here pretty much. Florida. Really? It rains year round there? Corey Fowler says, thanks for your videos and diligence. You are very welcome, my friend. I'm glad you enjoy. Miss T says, the eggplant seedling that I started inside didn't do as well as the seeds that I planted directly. Direct seeding eggplants, huh? Well, you're in Texas. That's why you can do that. Let's see here. Austin, what do I need to know? $5. Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you for the tip. He says, what do I need to grow? What do I need to know to grow great strawberries? Great strawberries. Number one, you want the life in the soil to be thriving. That is going to be primary. And so you want there to be lots of rich organic matter. That's going to be number one. And you don't want a heavy clay. That's number two, because they don't have that powerful root system to go out and power through the clay. And so those are two main things. Also, then you'll get the best production if you have a confined space. Here's what I've found. If you have a confined space, then you will get the best production by keeping them confined to the bushes and to snipping off the runners. Yes? Another way of doing it is you just let them grow and grow and grow. If you have a lot of space and space is not an issue, then because it's lowest maintenance and upkeep, then that can be a good method. But if in most people in the home garden, you want to keep them confined to the bush. Let's see, Jay Brammer, thanks for both channels. Yes, you're very welcome, my friend. Yes, I have a Nate Muri channel, where we talk about all kinds of other stuff. There's a Monday at 12 noon live stream that we do there. And that is about sort of like spirituality type stuff and, visioneering and sort of, it's just all good. It's all positive. So let's see. Pharaoh Heathen, the coffee slurp was brilliant. Oh, what is that? Yes, okay, thank you. Let's see. Ben Hudson said, $10. Thank you very much, my friend. Says, a gift for your presence. You are very welcome for that, and thank you. 10A. What is that? Australian? Ben, are you in Australia? Ms. T, $10. Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate your contribution, both in that way, but also the energy and the comments and everything. I just appreciate you being here on all the channels. Let's see. PA says, don't forget to mulch with straw. They're called strawberries for a reason. Whoa. Do you think that's why they're called strawberries? I'd have to look into that. Let's see here. Corey says, please look at above question. What above question? Corey, you got to understand the comments are going boom, 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 boom. I can't just ask the question again. If you're not getting the answer, just ask it again. So, because I'm just doing it on my phone and it's just choo. So, Natalie Dumas, I just grab out whatever question I can see at the time. So, question, can I grow peas and beans in your composted horse manure? Absolutely you can. That stuff is going to, if it's well composted horse manure, you can grow pretty much anything in that. Peas and beans are going to love that, yes. So the good way to do that is if you have, and I'm talking real composted horse manure, not stuff where you can still discern it. You know what I mean? You want it to be nice and composted if you're going to do it in this way. Then, yes, you can lay it down and then about 6 inches thick. And then you can plant about 4 inches deep. Those peas and beans can go 3 to 4 inches deep into that stuff. They can, and they will push up through it. And then they will put their roots down into the actual soil that is underneath it. And the manure will act like a mulch, keeping the soil moist and cool during the heat, but also to fertilize. Every time it rains and all of that is going to really fertilize the soil. So that is a good way for peas and beans. They love horse manure. Well composted horse manure. Let's see. Bushcraft says the straw keeps the fruit from being in the soil and rotting. Mine are doing great this way. Okay, yes. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see here. Angelique Chavari, $5. Thank you very much, my friend. Appreciate the support. She says, is it a she? Angelique, right? Cardboard question. Some say the glues in cardboard are toxic. You have talked about how soil microbes can break down even pharmaceuticals. Is cardboard safe because the microbes can break down glue? Well, I don't concern myself with that, with the glue that is in the cardboard. In fact, the earthworms and things, they love the cardboard. So now the tape on the cardboard is a different thing. That doesn't decompose. That will stay in the soil for years and years and years and years, probably longer than you'll be alive. And so, but the cardboard itself, no, I would not worry about that because the microorganisms devour the cardboard. I use it. I've been using it for years, and worms love it. Microorganisms love it. It's a great way to smother out the weeds and then to put stuff on top, you know. Jay Dixon, what's up, my friend? Thank you for, he says, reminder to highlight, meaning get attention, use at Garden Like a Viking before you type your question. And then it shows a little bit of a highlight. So if you guys have a question, do that. A question for me, you know. So yeah, thank you, Jay. Natalie Dumas says, horse manure, it's not fully composted. There are bits well composted and other bits that aren't. It has been in a big pile for about a year. Okay, yeah, you'll still be fine. You'll still be fine. I'm talking like, well, one time I used it, so it was so fresh, it was like still hot. It was like still steaming. It was like fresh from the horse stalls, you know, just that day, I guess. And so, yeah, then we tried to plant potatoes in it. This was just last year because I've been planting in direct horse manure for years. But last year we got a huge 3 truckloads actually, of it. And we dug these trenches and we put the potatoes in there, and then we put all that super fresh horse manure right on top. And we were waiting for the potatoes to come up and stuff. And like, man, it's been weeks. Nothing's come up. And then went down. I was like, okay, well, we got to try and find the potatoes. Looked in there and we could not find a single potato anywhere. They had all composted because it was just too hot. So, so yes, there is a limit on how fresh the horse manure can be. I did find that out. But if it's broken down to it's mostly looking like soil and stuff, because I've done it other times where you can just put down, 8 inches to a foot of horse manure, 3-4 feet wide, roll landscaping fabric over it, and then burn holes in the fabric and plant directly into that, and stuff thrives. So, okay. Tulaco says, question, any thoughts on using car tires as raised beds? I've done it for years with good results, but a lot of people seem concerned about chemicals. Yeah, that's the thing. So that's going to have to be on an individual basis. So my thoughts on that are, it's totally up to you, you see, because we are surrounded by so many chemicals already, and so many things are off. I mean, if you're using pressure treated lumber, you're having chemicals up in the bed. If you're using plastic composites, it's possible that the chemicals get into the soil. But here's the thing, is that the plant doesn't actually just absorb it because it's in the soil. It doesn't just magically absorb it. And so that's where a lot of people they're not understanding how the plant is working. And so there may be plastic leach off or tire sort of chemicals of some kind in the soil, but that does not necessarily mean that the plant is going to take it up, because it has no need for it, for one, and it has no way to take it up unless it's first digested by the microorganisms. And so that they may leach, yes, but I'm not sure how much of an issue it really is. I've never done any extensive testing on it. Personally, I don't grow in car tires, but I do grow in the contractor bag grow bags, so I do grow in that, and I've been growing in that for a long time. It's still going to be light years beyond anything that you're getting in the store, because you have to think, okay, when you go and get a bag of potatoes from the store, they come in the plastic bags. Everything is packaged in plastic all the time anyways. And if you look up and really do the deep research, as I have done, food grade doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't really make it, if it's food grade, then it's 100% safe. If it's not food grade, then, it's going to be terrible. So it's not really like that when you do enough research and see. So it's, you have to sort of pick your battles. in my opinion. If growing in tires is making it so that you can grow food, then grow in tires. If not, because if without them you don't have the ability to grow food, then it's a no-brainer. Absolutely. Or if growing in the grow bags, like I've made the video about, the reason I made that video is because when I was traveling throughout the world, I saw in the developing world, like India, Thailand, Sri Lanka, all this, people are growing in bags like that all over the place because they don't have any other means. I mean, they can't go and buy, a $20 cloth pot for every little thing that they're growing, or they can't spend $1,000 in lumber for raised beds and all of that stuff. So they just grow in these bags and it works perfectly fine. So that's, I made that video so that people that don't have a lot of money to invest can grow food. Now, is it ideal? No. Ideally, the only thing that you would use for any kind of raised bed is like what I've used out here, and just logs. Go to the forest and get logs and use just natural logs and make that just be your small raised bed. That's by far the best if you want it to be raised or defined. So, Mom Computer, hello, my friend, says, I believe the petroleum in tires ruins the soil, but I am a purist. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't argue with that, definitely. I don't, personally, I wish there was no plastic. I wish there were no car tires, obviously. I wish there were no petrochemicals of any kind. I wish that it was 500 years ago in that regards where we were, before all of this stuff. But at the same time, I know that there's so many people that, because of circumstances and things, they have to grow in a certain way. And so if it's either you grow in car tires or you grow in bags or something, or you don't grow food, then the choice is obvious. No matter what you grow food, it's still going to be light years beyond what you are getting from the store. So that's what I'm saying. You don't have to be such a purist that you limit yourself so severely, Let's see. Peter says, right on, keep it natural, keep it simple. Yes, my friend. Ideally, the best way is to just make the logs and grow in the earth. The plants want the earth. The plants want the earth because they are the original electroculture antenna. And they are, that's what it's all about. So Scorpio 1969, $20, my friend. Thank you very much. I appreciate the contribution. Says, thanks for all you do and share. My comfrey patch is getting large. Maybe share some good uses for comfrey. Yes, I could do that. I could make a video on that. My number one use for comfrey is to ferment it and to make compost and liquid fertilizer out of it. That is the best use of it in my experience. So Big West's Lawn Care, tire recycling has come a long way. Tire recycling has come a long way. You can build a gasifier or retort chambers and cook them into fuels. Nice. Yes, that is good. And that's, let's see here. Vera Witch Lady says, another question. Can you use cardboard instead of plastic to prevent evaporation of the soil? Yes. Yes, you can. It will not work as good, but if you put the cardboard down and you put something on top of that, like some kind of leaves or grass clippings or mulch of some kind, that is really good. That will help, yes. Or if you just have cardboard and you want to weight it down with logs or rocks or something, yes, that can work, but put it several layers thick. And yeah, that will help with reduce, yes. But to reduce it completely, the plastic really reduces it totally, So Ben Hudson, Garden Like a Viking, mixing 25% coco coir and perlite into soil for California flowers. Will this leach nitrogen for California flowers? Mixing 25% coco coir and perlite into soil. So meaning the native soil. So is it? What part of California are you in? Because no, that's not going to really, the coco coir will take a while to break down, but you should definitely, for the most part, leaching nitrogen is kind of a myth. It's not nearly as big of an issue as people think that it is. It's usually other things that are happening in their garden. But if you are using the coco coir, and the perlite is not going to make any difference. It's not going to do anything. It would only be the coco coir. The perlite is just like a type of foam rock, really. And so it doesn't decompose in any meaningful time frame to be an issue for us. So no, that's not going to be an issue. You can do that. You just want to make sure everything comes down to the life in the soil. So if your soil is thriving and bursting with life, then it's not going to matter what is put into it, really. It's going to know how to sort itself out. Maybe I think like something flew in my nose. Okay, so Wiseman says nitrogen isn't an issue. 78% is atmospheric. Yeah, dramatically overstated the nitrogen leaching thing, and it's typically other people or other things that people have not done right that they blame on that. So, oh man, Val Thatcher says, last year I burned my squash plant leaves because I put the JDOM sulfur on when the sun was out. Lesson learned. Yes, my friend, that is, man, I've got to blow my nose. That is lesson learned, my friend, because you do not want to be doing that in the sun. Okay. So let us see here. And RK says, comfrey for sprains and strains. Yes, I've heard of this as well, but I have not had any direct experience with this, using it in that way. Definitely P says comfrey can be a mulch. Oh, absolutely. It can be a mulch. It can be a fertilizer. It's very rich in nutrients. Yes. Big West says, I need garbage bags to do my job. No way I can bring 20 garbage cans to do lawns. Go back and grab the bags, then dump them at the city dump. Then reuse them many times. Yes, definitely. Lisa T says, for comfrey fertilizer, what ratio do you dilute before applying? Thank you, Nate. Pretty much as the standard, we can do a 1:20. You know, unless it's something like a chicken manure fertilizer, which is the hottest of all of them, which I'll make a video soon on that. But the comfrey or the seaweed or the any of those kind of things, 20:1 is going to be good. If you're at all in doubt, then 50:1 or even 100:1 is still going to be effective. So you can start at that, 100:1, 50:1, something like that. But the main thing is that when you're just starting it out, you don't want to get it on the leaves. So just do the soil. So if you're doing 20:1, put it on the soil and see how it reacts. See how everything reacts first. That's what I would do. Scott Murray, $10. Thanks a lot, Dad. Good to see you stopping by. And yes. Megan Kramer, have you read any books on garden pests that you would recommend? Books on garden pests that you would recommend? I would recommend the JDOM series, of course. The 100 herbal remedies or the 100 garden pests. You know, that could be good. Yeah. I haven't really read a lot of books on garden pests. No, most of it, well, all of it is just doing it, experience. Let's see here. Miss Valmark says, I'm sorry. I sprayed JDOM natural pesticide just before it got dark. Worked beautifully. Now it's raining like crazy. Oh man, I wish it would rain here. Yes, you're welcome, Lisa. Tammy Harder says, does anyone have experience with using dry powdered cow manure for their garden? I can purchase from local dairy farmer for very inexpensively. Thanks. Okay, the thing that you will want to, you will want a test run of that first, okay, Tammy? If you're using that, because I know what you're talking about, and it's probably from an industrial dairy type farm operation. So here's the concern. One is that there could be residual herbicide in the manure, because for sure, if it's an industrial dairy kind of operation, They don't really care where it's the source of the of the hay, and if it's not sprayed with any chemicals, they would just straight up get hay from the cheapest possible bidder or whatever, the cheapest possible way. So it could definitely be contaminated with the herbicides, the Grazon and stuff like that, but also it's the antibiotics, because in those industrial type dairy places, the conditions are really awful for the cow, and so they have to pump them full of antibiotics all the time. And these antibiotics is yeah, Mad Max. These antibiotics are also somewhat residual, and so they are by design designed to kill microorganisms, bacteria and things. And so when we are natural farming, we do not want this antibiotic effect, residual effect. And so this is why we have to be very cautious about this. And so you want to get some of it, a small amount, and mix it in real heavily with some test plot, and grow some beans, some pole beans. They'll sprout in like 5 days, 10 days, and you will know real fast how they are doing, and if there's stuff in there that's going to be a problem. So that would be my only cautions. But other than that, yes, you can use the cow manure from there. And you would just mix it in to the soil, put an inch or so on the top, and then you can just rake it in or just leave it up top. We're not talking about tilling it in. You can just leave it as a top dressing and let it work its way into the soil like that. Let's see. Garth says, be very careful. I was wondering if you were going to say something about that. Garth says, be very careful with the JDOM pesticide book. It leaves a great deal to the imagination. I bought it, read it, and sent it back. Yes. And that's kind of a unfortunate thing about the JDOM. The whole book, all of the books, are that they are very difficult to navigate. And the recipes and all of that are kind of really unclear. It's just so many conversions and stuff like that. And it really is like, so it can be tough to find the information in the books, and it can be tough to discern how to make the recipes based upon given ratios and stuff. That's why it took me forever to decipher all of it, and then to make it, and then to use it, and see it all, working and stuff. And that's why I can give you guys the ratios. Let's see here. And Patrick Reed says, Grazon, just learned about it this past week. Herbicide used on livestock hay. Read the label on all manure applications to ensure it is Grazon free. Yeah, definitely. Do they put that on the label? Because I don't even know if they would put that on the label. It's really an unfortunate thing that this ancient source of soil fertility has been totally vandalized and taken from us, in the sense that for thousands of years, animals and humans and agriculture have all coexisted alongside of each other and mutually benefiting one another. And yet now, because always that was returned to the land, the manures, but now the manures have become toxic, and they've become like a poison to the land if they have the Grazon in it. And you can't tell me that this was not done by design, in the fact that the people developing these things, they knew full well that this stuff was going to be residual in the manure. Of course, they know this. These are scientists that are developing this stuff. And so you can't tell me that's by accident. So that we can't use manures, which is, if you just had cow or horse manure, then that's all the soil fertilizer anyone ever needs, really. I mean, with other practices, but those manures are good enough to grow, and people have for thousands of years used that to grow in. But now they're contaminated with this Grazon nonsense, and so that is really unfortunate. That is why I went to the farm where I get the beef from, and asked her. I said, okay, so I see you guys growing. They grow all their own hay for these cattle, and I asked her if she sprays. She said no. She knew exactly what I was talking about, and she said no, we never spray with any of that kind of stuff. So okay, wonderful. And so then we got a whole load of the manure and we put it onto the watermelon patch, which, guys, here's what I'm growing this year for the watermelon patch. We are growing the Alibaba, which I got. These were the highest and best reviews of any of them on the website. And so I just went, I read all the reviews and stuff, and I'm really interested to try these out. So, where is the... yeah, so we are going to do the this watermelon here and the Alibaba watermelon. And those are at the watermelon patch, which is in the ground, along with the Kolb's Gem. These supposedly get over 100 pounds. And so we will see. But these are the ones I'm doing in the back. These things I've done before, and these are delicious. I mean, super incredibly delicious, guys. They're small little melons like this, and I'm growing them up a cattle panel trellis, and so they are so sweet and so delicious. The Kahari melon. Also, though, we want to be growing the... I can't find it in here right now. Well, yeah, so those are some of the melons that we're growing. I actually have a lot more than that, but I thought they were in there, but they're not. Okay, so... and let us see here. Short Bus Mooner says, I like to throw a fresh fish in the bottom when I start my raised beds. Absolutely. Just made a video about that. Tammy Harder says, thanks, Nate and everyone. I will do the test beans and see what happens before I go all out with the cow manure. Yes, do the test first. But you'll know pretty quickly. So, 4 Points Homestead says, Nate, when you make your tea, are you using fresh herbs or dried? I dried some lemon basil as well as mint, and it was kind of like just drinking hot water. Not much flavor. Yeah, the mint things, this is super fresh. This I just picked outside. The mint and the lemon balm is going crazy right now. So mint does not dry well. I mean, it dries well, but it doesn't keep its essential oils. They like evaporate or something. And so no, the mint I don't actually dry. I just use it fresh all summer long. Yeah. So it's one of those things, though, that has to be like, it's the taste of summer. You know, it's almost like nature says, okay, mint is so delicious and so beautiful and such a unique and wonderful flavor that we are going to allocate it for your experience only during the summertime. So therefore, you can't dry it. Not like sage and rosemary and thyme. Those are all, man, when you dry those, and summer savory, when you dry those and use them in the wintertime, you get full-on flavor. Oregano, you know, full flavor, almost even more concentrated than the fresh stuff. But the mint, anything from the mint family, it's the opposite. So no. You want that essential oil production from the fresh mint, and in particular, the growing tip of the fresh mint. Maybe I'll do a little video, but how you just go through your mint grove and pick just the tips off of them, the growing tips, and that makes them branch out more and more and more, and so it gets bushier and bushier, and it keeps it from going to seed much longer than otherwise. Because once the mint goes to seed, or the lemon balm or whatever, once it goes to seed, then the essential oil production is not its main focus, and so it sort of loses its flavor. So it's best before it goes to seed. Let's see here. Lisa of Light says, another reason to grow our own food. Avocados coated with toxic AI coatings to keep them from breaking down. Yeah, I don't doubt that. Oh, absolutely. Everything's sprayed with all kinds of just gnarly chemicals. Let's see here. Lisa T says, Nate, can you please share thoughts on deep watering for trees, like using an Oya or underground watering pot? Many thanks. Indiana, 6B with new apple and peach trees. Okay, deep watering for trees, using underwater Oya. So I don't have experience with that thing that you're talking about, the underwater Oya, but what I do know for sure is that you want to mulch around the is you want to mulch around the tree. This is primary. So although you keep it away from the stem, you want to mulch, and to begin with, as soon as you plant it and everything, you want to mulch at least a 3 or 4 feet circle around the tree. And then as the tree grows, you want it to always be about the size of its drip line. This is going to be the best, because in nature, this is how the tree will always do it, is that it will grow and it will produce leaves and fruits, boom, and they will fall to the ground right there. And over seasons of that, the leaves and the fruits and everything pile up, a nice thick layer of wondrous mulch and leaf mold and food for the worms that attracts all kinds of microorganisms. But when we plant fruit trees and then we mow around them and keep it just mowed grass, that's totally anti the way that nature is doing it. And so we don't have that healthy of trees. So what we want to do is keep a thick layer of mulch around the tree. Not super thick, but enough to establish that relationship with the fungi in the soil and the earthworms and the microorganisms, and to keep it evenly moist. So that's the number one tip for trees, definitely, is to always keep them mulched. Let's see here. Let's see, the guiding heart. Nate, what's the easiest way to compost meat and dairy and a huge pile of yard trimmings? Okay, meat and dairy, well, if you watch the video that I made about the slow composting, that is a very good method, because you can just throw everything into the pile and it will eventually decompose. So that works really well. But if it's in particular things like meat and dairy or food scraps, I've created a couple of different systems. And one is with a trash can with a tight fitting lid, a plastic trash can. I drilled a bunch of holes into it and then I buried it a little bit in the soil. I'll make a video on this coming up. And you can put anything in there and put the lid on, and it gets so hot from the sun and everything, it decomposes really fast. And that's a really good way because it keeps all the rodents out. So also you can just, if you have a big pile of lawn trimmings, like you said, then you can try to mix it with some leaves or some straw, some kind of carbon source. But you can also just put that meat and dairy right in with that, and then flip that over several times. You know, every 3 to 5 days you can flip it over and remake the pile again. You know, it's called turning the pile. So that is how I would do it. That's how I do it. Natalie says, any kind of mulch for trees? Leaves are number one. If you can do leaves, that's the best. So a nice thick layer of leaves would be the best. But beyond that, wood of any kind. Well, preferably hardwood would be really good. So some kind of, but like arborist, really the arborist tree trimmings, the stuff that they make, like you see them running through the chipper after they do some tree work, those are the best because it's got the leaves in there as well, in the good ratio. And so if you can get some arborist tree or arborist wood chips, that's what you want. Put that all the way around and apply several applications of the JDOM microbial solution. Now we're talking. Then it's going to give it the best chance to formulate those relationships that it needs. Let's say, yes, my friend, hit that like button. That's right. PA says, is my feed wrong or are there only 19 likes? Hit that like button. It shows there's 155 here, so that's adequate, but that means that there's about 100 of you that haven't hit the like button yet, so let us go ahead and do that. Thank you. Let's see here, and isolation netting will help protect plants from cross-pollination and keep insects away. Yes, that's possible. Let's see here. Dana says, Deanna says, can I use fresh chicken manure in bottom of raised beds? Yes, you can. Fresh manure, you'll want to go light on it. How deep are the beds? If the bed is a 2x12, I mean, if it's a 12 inches, then yes, you can put a layer at the bottom and put the soil on top, and yes, that will be fine. But if you only have a little amount, you can use the fresh stuff to make the tea, which I'll be showing you here in another week or two, that video. So let's see here. And any kind of mulch for the tree. You guys are having side conversations. That's great. I'm all about it. Alfreda says, enjoying the information today. Husband and I wonder about cross-pollination in our small garden. We went to Seed Save, Zone 8, Florida. Okay, here's the thing. Cross-pollination can happen among certain things, and it can happen to varying degrees. So number one thing is going to be peppers. Peppers cross-pollinate to a point that is makes it so that they're not really usable the next year. So what I mean by that is that if you have sweet peppers, if you have like jalapenos and then some bell peppers or some poblanos and then some sweet, Macedonian peppers or any of these different kind of peppers really easily cross-pollinate. And so so if you have a number of different kind of peppers and then they are in proximity of each other, then when you save those seeds and replant those plants next year, you will get something that is neither of its parents. That is like the jalapeno. I've done this before. I've known this. I've done this several times before I understood this years ago. And you will get like these jalapenos that have zero flavor whatsoever. Not in a good way, not like sweet or not hot, just like totally flavorless. And it really messes with the peppers. And so that's the number one thing that I never save seeds from peppers anymore because I grow several different types. If you only grew one type of pepper, that wouldn't be an issue. And you didn't have neighbors right next door that were growing it. So, yeah, that's been my experience, is that peppers, no. But other than that, I don't really worry about it because some things will cross-pollinate, like the squash and the melons they can cross-pollinate, but I've never noticed it to be of any kind of effect, of any kind of detrimental effect. Like I've grown Tahitian melon squash and butternut squash in close proximity of each other. And the only thing that really happens is that the butternut squash get bigger the next year, So I don't really worry about it. Tomatoes, I don't worry about that. I mean, I save seeds from everything except peppers. Natalie says, cross-pollination. Can I grow different melons next to each other if I don't save the seeds? Absolutely. Yes. Yes. If you're not talking about saving the seeds, you can grow anything next to each other except for corn. Corn is the only thing that will express the cross-pollination in this season. So maybe there's others, but corn is the main one that if you plant like a sweet corn, like a Fisher's Earliest or something like that next to a dry corn or like a glass gem corn or a painted mountain corn, and they are wind pollinated. Once they get cross pollinated, you will get sweet corn that is real nasty. You'll see kernels in it that are all gnarly, because remember, every silk on the top of the corn, every little strand of silk corresponds to a kernel. And so every one of those silks has to receive a grain of pollen in order to be pollinated. That's why, and it's all done by the wind. And yes, that guy Chris says corn pollen travels 1 to 2 miles. I know. So it's all done by the wind. And so if you have two different types of corn, it's not so much, if you have multiple different types of sweet corn, that's not really a problem. Although you wouldn't want to save the seeds from that if you're wanting to get the specific characteristics, like of a silver queen or something like that, if you want a certain characteristics. But if you if you just want sweet corn, then just plant sweet corn and it will be okay. But if you're planting other kinds of corn, this season it will become messed up. But other than that, for most plants, it's only the following season that cross-pollination is an issue. So if you're growing zucchinis and squash and melons and all that stuff, even though they're in similar families and all that, it's not going to be an issue this year at all. So it's really not even going to be an issue unless for some reason you really wanted the pure genetics of only the Maduras melon or something, So, yeah, that guy Chris says, you don't mix sweet corn with dent or soft flint. That's right. That's exactly what I'm saying. Ehab says, hey, Nate, glad I could make it. Gardening right now. Upgrading a tomato to one of my DIY self-watering containers. I JMS'd the whole garden 2 days ago. I have photos. How do I share them? If you are on Instagram, you can put the photos on there and then use the hashtag GardenLikeAViking. In fact, you guys should always use the hashtag GardenLikeAViking, please, and also Team Viking, but mainly GardenLikeAViking. That's the one that enables me to see those pictures. If you're not on Instagram, then you can email me at gardenlikeaviking@gmail. So yeah. We're nearing the end of time, guys, so let me know if you have any burning questions. And we do this every Saturday at 12 noon here on this channel, and then every Monday on my other channel, Nate Muri, we have a different kind of live at 12 noon, and that's more spiritual, wellness, health, nutrition, mindset, you know, all that kind of stuff. So if you're into that kind of thing, you can check that one out. But yeah, we are in full swing, guys. So if you have any kind of like questions about gardening related stuff, always put them in the comments sections of the videos so that other people can benefit from our conversations. But if you have like a business inquiry or you have to send me pictures, you can email me at gardenlikeaviking at gmail. J.E. Hammond says, any advice on spearmint? What advice do you want? Number one advice is only plant spearmint where you want it to become a patch of spearmint garden. So if you don't plant it in an area where you're going to plan on planting other stuff, because spearmint grows like a weed, you know, except it's a wonderful thing, but if you plan for that. So I have mint on the side of the house where nothing else is growing and it's overtaking the whole thing. So wherever you plant mint will become a mint garden. So that is the thing that you have to remember. Other than that, mint is very hardy, and it will like, again, luscious soil bursting with life. So get the soil happening, get some organic matter in it, and get the moisture happening. And then after it starts to sprout, give it a light layer of mulch, a layer that it can poke through. So like some grass clippings, maybe just an inch or so to keep the soil moist, or some leaf mold, an inch or two. It'll poke through all of that. Let's see. Jones says, I planted my spearmint in a pot and put the pot next to my vegetable plants. Would that be okay? Yes, it will be okay, so long as it doesn't go to seed and then drop those seeds. Once you see it starting to form the white flowers, you'll probably want to put it somewhere else or cut off the flowers. But if it's allowed to turn, if the flowers are allowed to pollinate and then drop the seeds, then it's off to the races the next year. You will have mint coming up. Garth says, thanks for all this gain, Nate the Great. Yes, Nate the Great. Yep, I remember that. So yes, thanks for being here, Garth. Mad Max says, thanks, Nate. Blessed Memorial Day to you all. Is it Memorial Day coming up? Ehab says, wishing you a great day. In my case, it's evening. Do you have any experience? Well, I can't see it now. It's all gone. Okay. All right, guys. So let's see. I think that's all that I wanted to tell you guys. And let me know in the comments section how your garden is doing. You know, if you're watching this after the fact, let me know, and do the Instagram thing. Yes, Instagram can be used for some beneficial stuff. So it can be used for learning and stuff like that. So that's really what I'm all about. So Garden Like a Viking. What's the Insta name? Garden Like a Viking. It's the account's name is Garden Like a Viking. So make sure that you put the hashtag in there. Okay, my friends, I will see you next time.